y'all already know, I did not watch that crap yesterday. We were in Memphis with Reverend Dr. William Barber. I told y'all I wasn't going to watch it. We were not even streaming it. We wasn't doing any of that. But then all of a sudden, Lord have mercy, folk start texting me, start calling me. And this how it all started. What the hell was that? Did you see that? Did you hear that? And I was like, what are y'all talking about? And they were talking about the closing prayer that was led by that fool out of Detroit, Lorenzo Powell. Is it Lorenzo Small? What's his last name? Oh, Sewell. I thought it was Lorenzo Small. Okay, Lorenzo Sewell. If y'all missed it, go ahead and roll it.
We pray that you use our president, that we will live in a nation where we will not be judged by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus, we are so grateful today that you will use our 47th president so we would sing with new meaning, my country, 'tis of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and because America is called to be a great nation, we believe that you will make this come true. So let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous hilltops of California, but God, we're asking you not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and every molehill in Mississippi, from every state, every city, every village, and every hamlet. And when we let freedom ring, we will be able to speed up that day where all of your children, black men and white men, Protestant and Catholic, Jew and Gentile, will be able to sing in the meaning of that old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank you, God Almighty. We are free at last. If you believe where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Come on, put your hands together and give your great God great glory.
You know what I can't stand? I can't stand, and let me be real clear with y'all, and y'all know that there are certain words I do not use on this show. I don't let people use it, I don't use it. But that absolutely was a Sambo impersonation. That was a minstrel show. That was a damn abomination where that ratchet ass so-called preacher would dare use the words of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that he delivered on August 28, 1963, at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, that he would bastardize those words at the behest in a prayer for a fake Christian, for a man who is atrocious and pathetic, And see, what's even more, and the reason I say bastardized, because this so-called preacher skipped over what King said at the top of the speech. Skipped over voting rights. He skipped over the check stamp insufficient fund. He skipped over police brutality. See, what he did is what all these other white Republicans love to do. They love to talk about the bottom of the I Have a Dream speech. They love that part, but they never want to deal with the real stuff in the top. See, they don't want to deal with the reality of what folk are facing. No, what he'd rather do was do some fake-ass audition for Juilliard or some acting school by standing there and waving his hands and just all of this. He reminded me of Spike Lee's movie Bamboozled. Roland.
Make headlines. The Huxtables, Cosby, a genius, revolutionary, but we can't go down that road again.
The network does not want to see Negroes on television unless they are buffoons.
Have you ever thought about just quitting?
I have a contract. The only way I get out of that is if I get fired, and that is what I intend to do. I know you are familiar with minstrel shows, variety shows, like in Living Color.
Right. That was dope.
Man Tan, the new millennium minstrel show.
We're gonna need a little more money for this.
This could be bigger than Friends, Ally McBeal, even my boys Amos and Andy.
Damn.
You're putting white actors in blackface?
We are using black actors with blacker faces.
Hollywood, Hollywood, Hollywood.
This fall.
Right on, man.
Yeah, great show.
You won't believe what's coming to your television.
Sleep and Eat and Mantan are lazy and unemployed.
Do your stuff.
But we are certainly not saying anything about the entire African American community.
What's sweeping the nation. And what's coloring the way you see the world.
Yo, we can't let this injustice go by, man. Not this time, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Nah, man. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
You notice that everybody white want to be black. I'm out. I'm raising up. They all act like sound left.
When are you going to come into the light?
The light.
The light.
Your hands are just as bloody as mine.
Cousins, I want you all to go to your windows. We talking about revolution. Go to your windows and yell out, I am not gonna take it anymore!
I don't want anything to do with anything black for at least a week.
He was Mantan. That's what that was. I'm just out here doing my shuffle for the white folk. There have been black pastors who have given prayers at Republican inaugurations before. 2005, Houston's Kirby John Caldwell gave a prayer. This is what a black preacher looks like giving a prayer at a Republican inauguration.
O Lord God Almighty, the supply and supplier of faith and freedom, how excellent is your name in all the earth. You are great and greatly to be praised. O God, as we conclude this 55th inaugural ceremony, we conclude it with an attitude of thanksgiving. Thank you for protecting America's borders. After all, as the psalmist reminds us, Unless you, O God, guard the territory, our efforts will be in vain. Thank you for our armed service personnel. And it is with unswerving thanksgiving that we pause to remember the persons who have made the ultimate sacrifice to help ensure America's safety. Thank you, O God, for surrounding our personnel, their families, their friends, and our allies with your favor and your faithfulness. Deploy your host from heaven so that your will for America will be performed on earth as it is already perfected in heaven. I confess that your face will shine upon the United States of America, granting us social peace and economic prosperity, particularly for the weary and the poor. I also confess, O God, that each American's latter days will be better than their former days. Let it be unto us according to your word. Rally the Republicans, the Democrats, and the independents around your common good so that America will truly become one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice, and equal opportunity for all, including the least, the last, and the lost. Bless every elected official right now. Oh God, I declare your blessings to shower upon our President George W. Bush. Bless him, his family, and his administration. I once again declare that no weapon formed against them shall prosper. And God, forgive us for becoming so ensnarled in petty partisan politics that we miss your glory and flunk our purpose. Deliver us from the evil one, from evil itself, and from the mere appearance of evil. Give us clean hearts so that we might have clean agendas, clean priorities and programs, and even clean financial statements. And now unto you, O God, the one who always has been and always will be, the one King of kings and the true power broker, we glorify and honor you. Respecting persons of all faiths, I humbly submit this prayer in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
See, that's called a prayer. What we saw by that fool, Lorenzo Sewell, was just complete and utter trash. Ben Watson, conservative brother, Ben tweeted this: Lorenzo Sewell is a complete disgrace. He should be ashamed of himself. What an embarrassment. He's absolutely right. And y'all, he made it worse. He made it worse because after he stood up there looking like a damn fool with his minstrel show, he then comes on social media to announce he's getting his own coin, his own meme coin, whatever the hell they call them, the latest fraud scam of Trump and his cohorts. Listen to this.
I need you to do me a favor right now. I need you to go buy the official Lorenzo Sewell coin. I want you to be able to see politics become manifest, not just in a way where we're praying over political gatherings, but where we're seeing us become the hands and the feet of the Lord Jesus Christ. Would you help?
Now, y'all notice in that despicable mocking of Dr. King, this in that minstrel show, Lorenzo Mantan Sewell made no mention of Jesus and the poor. Lorenzo Mantan Sewell made no mention of the least of these. Lorenzo Mantan Sewell made no mention of Democrats and Republicans coming together to do what's right for the American people. No, what he did was give a minstrel performance for the ages to the world. That's what he did. But see, he didn't have the dignity nor the biblical understanding, nor the gravitas, nor the common sense of Bishop Marion Edgar Budd, the bishop of the Episcopal Church Diocese of Washington, D.C., because see, today they had a national prayer service, and in her prayer, this is what she said to Trump and Vance and others assembled in the National Cathedral.
Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, wadara, and temples. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here. Our God teaches us that we are to be merciful to the stranger, for we were all once strangers in this land. May God grant us the strength and courage to honor the dignity of every human being, to speak the truth to one another in love, and walk humbly with each other and our God for the good of all people in this nation and the world. Amen.
Now I want y'all to freeze it right there. Now I want everybody to watch it, put me in the 2 box. I want everybody to watch to understand something. And here's a bishop talking about being merciful, who's talking about the poor, who's talking about the hardworking. Yet, she's talking about immigrants. She's talking about all of it. It's 2 immigrants sitting on the front row. Trump's wife, Vance's wife. Go to a full screen of them. That's 2 immigrants sitting on the front row. Sitting behind him is his son. Sitting next to her, you see the daughter. You see, guess what? They are the children of an immigrant that was his first wife. Oh, and the right, they upset with that bishop. How dare she talk to him like that? And when he was asked coming back to the White House, it could have been better. He didn't like the service because he didn't like being confronted with the word of God. He didn't like a prophetic voice challenging him to do what's right. You know why? Because just yesterday, this modern version of King Saul stood up at the inauguration and chastised and condemned and just ripped apart the administration of Harris, of Biden and Harris, sitting right beside him. He didn't have a sense of dignity. He didn't have any morality. He didn't have any decency. He didn't put forth a vision of the nation moving forward. Talked about how awful and degrading and how bad things have been. That's because he is not a Christian. He is not a moral man, because if you actually know the word, if you actually go to church, by the way, no president has gone to church more than Joe Biden. If you understand the power of the word, then you would have never, ever said this. Go to my iPad.
Thinking, which is a great book. But have you ever asked God for forgiveness? I'm not sure I have. I just go and try and do a better job from there. I don't think so. I think if I do something wrong, I think I just try and make it right. I don't bring God into that picture. I don't. Now, when I take, when we go in church and when I drink my little wine, which is about the only wine I drink, and have my little cracker, I guess that's a form of asking for forgiveness. And I do that as often as possible because I feel cleansed, okay? But, to me, that's important. I do that. But in terms of officially, I could say absolutely, and everybody, I don't think in terms of that. I think in terms of let's go on and let's make it right.
That is a no good heathen speaking. And all of these white conservative evangelicals, and you can throw in some black ones too, have fallen for the okie doke. And when you, I try to get my little cracker and wine as much as possible. It's called the Last Supper. Typically, it's done once a month. Catholics, it's done every week or every time you go to Mass. He don't know that. He ain't got no clue. He has no clue about asking for forgiveness and mercy. He has no understanding of grace. He doesn't know anything about Jesus dying for all of our sins, because that man ain't no lover of Jesus. He is an absolute demonic individual who is he's an agent of Satan. And I told y'all before, if you really want to go biblical, see, really what we're dealing with, Donald Trump is King Saul. The people of Israel have been freed, and God said, I got y'all. They said, oh, no, everybody else got a king. We want a king. God said, what's up? I got y'all. No, we want a king. So he said, Samuel, okay, go ahead and give him a king. But let me tell y'all what your king is going to do to you. Let me tell you how he's going to treat you, how he's going to abuse you, how he is going to screw you over. That's all biblical if y'all go read 1 Samuel. And so then Samuel goes and he looks at the sons and he chooses the tallest and most handsome one. And what does that punk do? He runs off. No, you can't run. I'm picking you as the king. And he was evil. Tried to kill David. Tried to break up the relationship between David and Jonathan. Donald Trump is King Saul. Because you know what America said? We want a king. Oh, we want a king. Can we give us a king? Give us a king. So in his speech, I think that God saved me from the assassination because God wanted to make America great again. No, I think it's a little different, Don. I think God said, America, I'm going to give y'all the desires of your heart. Now, biblically, it does not mean that the desires of your heart actually means it's good. It means God will give you the desires of your heart. So America said, we don't care about January 6th. America said we don't care about his ethics. We don't care about him grabbing women by their vagina. We don't care about his mistreatment. We don't care that he didn't pay people, businesses who did work with him. We don't care about the lawsuits. We don't care about the lying. We don't care about the mistreatment. We don't care about the degrading rhetoric. We don't care about none of that. We want a king. What did he say? Day one, I'm going to be a dictator. Well, we've already seen that. But when you stand before the world to give a closing prayer, and then what you do is literally prostitute the words that Dr. King spoke, you actually thought you were preaching. You actually thought, Lorenzo Mantansul, that you were praying. No, what you were doing was you were pandering. You were posturing. You were presenting yourself to America as America's lawn jockey. And see, I said it. Those are words and phrases I don't use to describe folk on my show, but you took it to a whole new level. Your church is called 180 Church. I dare say, Lorenzo, you need to do a 180. But then again, Lorenzo, I see why you punked out and you were scared to come on this show after you had Trump at your church. I see why you ran to Fox News and others, because see, Lorenzo, you did not want to come to a place where we have reverence for the words and the actions of Dr. King. Instead, what you chose to do was make a fool out of yourself, as well as the tradition of the black church and that black preacher. Shame on you. And while you think MAGA and whatever coins MAGA tosses your way, just remember there was somebody else who got some coins for selling out Jesus. And we remember him a whole lot differently than we do the other men who followed Jesus. I'll go to my panel. Before I go to Joy, I did see this video that also quite reminded me of something.
Oh, Gen X, I cannot be the only one who thought this while I was watching this fella during the inauguration. Please tell me that I'm not the only one. Take a look at this and then take a look at what I thought of.
Let freedom ring from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee.
And, well, this here's what I thought of.
Only God can give that woman the kind of joy she had right now. Can I get an amen? Yes!
Come on now. I cannot be the only one. Please tell me I'm not the only one. Oh, Janet.
Go ahead, Joy.
That'd be funny. I thought of that too. So I did watch yesterday. I am home in Florida, and my mom, we just couldn't resist. We did not say Christianly words at the TV. I'll admit that. But when the pastor came on, I just couldn't believe that I knew that he was engaged in a grift. I didn't know about the coins until afterwards. But I knew, I was like, if he's engaged with Trump, there's a grift involved. There's money involved. There's some effort to defraud and confuse and befuddle and to make some money off of this engagement. It was the worst acting ever. And I've seen a lot of bad acting. I just couldn't believe it. And a bastardization of religion. Just so embarrassing. And they laughed at him. That's what's so great. Stop looking at him. Look at the people behind him. They were laughing at him. J.D. Vance's wife was also, she had my face. It was confusing, and obviously he didn't read the room. I mean, none of those people appreciated what he was doing. Even they knew it was off. And Black Republicans, you can be a Black Republican. I love that you juxtaposed with the Bush first inaugural. Think about how divided we were even at that time. But we didn't have a Black preacher come on and make a complete mockery of himself, a performance. And so we know that this person is not any kind of true man of God. He couldn't possibly be and have done all of that. The person we should be focused on is the bishop who spoke today. She is a reminder of what religion should be, what it can be. And frankly, Donald Trump should have expected that some minister was going to speak directly to him. And I wasn't even as appalled at Donald Trump's face during the prayer breakfast, but J.D. Vance's face. He was looking around. He was obviously...
No, he was looking down at Trump like, oh my Lord, she's saying to you, you gon', I can't believe, that he was mad. He was mad. Power, first of all, Joy, here's what these folk don't understand. Well, they don't understand, I'm gonna pull Jonas here. The purpose of a preacher is to convict those sitting in the pews. They're not supposed to be there to affirm you. The preacher is supposed to use the word to challenge you and to call you into question and to call you to do better when you leave. And all of these right-wing folk, Joe, are mad and upset. Oh, take their 501c3 status. How dare she talk that way? Because she talked the way a preacher is supposed to talk to power.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's the way Martin talked to power, right? And we whitewash how this country, as a country, we whitewash how we felt about Martin as if he wasn't killed violently, which he was. And so, a preacher is always going to call us to our highest purpose, to our highest morals, and they'll use the word actually to do it. So it was a bastardization of Dr. King's words to take his favorite parts of the speech, but not the other parts that really call into question what it is that's going on with those that are the least of us, right? And it's bad when you be sitting there and your eyes are closed to start, and at some point you just kind of got to open your eyes and be like, what in the world is going on here? And they were all doing the best they could to keep from busting out laughing, because this thing was really a clown show. It was a performance, and not a very good one. And it's not one that glorified God. It's not one that lift people up. All it did was, kind of kiss the president's behind, for lack of a better term. And so he sold himself out. But, it's probably not the first time he's done it. Probably won't be the last time. And since he was on minutes later talking about getting a commemorative coin, what his purpose is. And so the ministry yesterday did the right job. She did the right thing in terms of speaking to what it is that is supposed to be arisen out of us, our best instincts, reminding you this is the standard. You are in power and you have a position, and you have an ability to do this. And there'll also be accountability for not doing it. But that's another thing that the people that seem to be so excited that Donald Trump won, the evangelical types, the Christian types, or whatever else, they're not tripping off him not putting his hand on the Bible. Let Obama not put his hand on the Bible when he was swearing, I knew he was a Muslim and this and that and everything.
Hell, they got mad at him over a flag pin.
Right, yeah.
And a tan suit.
the hypocrisy is nuts. And what's so bad is that as a Christian, you stand on the outside and you just see non-Christians looking at this being like, nah, I'm good. Ain't no reason to jump into this because this ain't what's cracking like at all. So, it's going to be interesting to see how it all turns out and see the moment and time in which these so-called preachers stop undermining and undercutting their own salvation in order to kowtow to the president. Here's what
I find to be hilarious, Mustafa. Go to my iPad. This fool he did an interview with a bunch of different people yesterday, and he said, quote, if you take politics out of the Bible, you have no Bible. He said that religious leaders need to, quote, equip all people to understand that the Bible is a political book. Well, it's interesting, Mustafa, because there's a whole bunch of stuff he skipped. There's a whole bunch of stuff he didn't want to bring up. And see, again, what offends me is that you want to quote Dr. King on MLK Day, and you want to talk about content of character and all that stuff and from the hills and all that, but you skipped over the thesis. See, what he did was he gave them the hoop part of the sermon, but he skipped the scripture. He skipped the basis. And so that's what he did. And so that's why I have no respect for it. And of course, you go on to social media, you see all of these white conservatives. Oh my God, he was amazing. He was just, I would go to his church if I was in Detroit. That's the kind of pastor I will follow. And they're mad at the bishop today because the bishop today gave a sobering message and specifically said, Mr. President, she challenged him in terms of how he should be responding and how he should be acting as president. And that's what they cannot stand. They can't stand because what the right-wing evangelical conservative community has done is they have completely stripped grace and mercy and humanity and compassion and care from the Bible. And instead, what you get, Mustafa, is vitriol and hatred from these individuals. And then if they do talk about grace, it's what Dietrich Bonhoeffer called cheap grace, that they ask for. And so these folk want to hold themselves up to be somehow the paragons of virtue, the individuals who we understand and we represent the true body of Christ, when you have these fake frauds like Franklin Graham, who would rather ask for forgiveness of Donald Trump, who's cheated on all of his wives, who's cheated in business, who cheated in money, yet he didn't question the Christianity of President Barack Obama.
Yeah, well, one side of my family is ministers and deacons and deaconesses. So one of the things that I was taught as a young boy is that you don't play with God. And the bishop, and her demand to the president was saying, don't play with God. You've got this second chance. Sometimes God gives us the opportunity to be better, do better. So I hope that he does. Some folks, would probably not go that far, but I truly do because I understand how many vulnerable people are out there. But, the other day I was also meditating and praying, and then I started writing. And, I was wondering who it was meant for. And the first stanza, I guess, is actually for Reverend Sewell. When I said all skin folk ain't kin folk. Some grin for the win. Tap shoes clacking, backroom dealing, soul on auction, truth revealing. Dollars fold, but integrity bends. When devils pay, some friendships ends. So, I hope that he will realize the opportunity that he has. He's going to continue to have some form of a platform. I hope that that platform will be focused on our most vulnerable communities, on folks who are looking for some grace, who are looking for some protection, who are looking for some opportunity. And I hope as a minister that he would understand that that is the roots that he's supposed to come from, and that he will continue to share that message if he has the ear of the president, that he needs to do better with this second opportunity he has, not the second opportunity at the presidency, but that second opportunity to actually be able to breathe in some air, to have a heartbeat continue on. There's I would not play with God if I had those types of situations. I wouldn't play with God anyway. But, we'll see how it all plays out.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. And right now, we're accepting investors in our $17 million round to revolutionize the future of social media. Today, for just $399, you can own 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. While the big platforms have grown too massive and disconnected from their users, Fanbase is building a platform where creators and users truly come first. We've already raised $4.8 million from everyday investors who believe in this vision, and now you can join them. This is your chance to invest in a social media tech company with over 1 million users that is disrupting media by allowing anyone to reach all of their following and monetize their content from day one. The market is changing, big platforms are failing to serve their users, and Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now. Invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the future of social media.
Listen, on this show, we tried to tell you. We got T-shirts that says, we tried to tell you, FAFO 2025. Every single day, we kept warning people about this. We kept warning them about Project 2025. We kept warning this. Look, we ran this ad for the Lincoln Project that spelled out explicitly what will happen when this con man, when this thug actually returns to the Oval Office.
November 5th, 2024. Donald Trump defeats a divided and dispirited Democratic campaign. On January 20th, 2025, Donald Trump is sworn in as the 47th President of the United States. Unfortunately, he keeps his promises. Trump seizes control of a divided government, signing hundreds of executive orders implementing Project 2025. Trump replaces over 50,000 civil servants with hardline MAGA loyalists. The federal oath of office now requires declaring loyalty to the president, not the Constitution. Protected by the Supreme Court's grant of total immunity for official acts, Donald Trump orders the Department of Justice to arrest members of the January 6th Commission, current and former DOJ employees, and political opponents for treason, election interference, and conspiracy. He declares it to be an official act. Trump ends birthright citizenship by executive order and turns millions of American-born citizens into illegal aliens overnight. Mass deportations begin. Hundreds of thousands, including legal U.S. residents and American citizens, are imprisoned in newly built camps. Protests erupt. Trump addresses the nation from the Oval Office, invoking the Insurrection Act and declaring the protesters a danger to American sovereignty. He orders the National Guard to use deadly force to suppress the protests. In the wake of the bloody violence, Trump declares nationwide martial law, awarding himself new powers under the freshly signed American Sovereignty Protection Order, which defines protest of immigration policies as non-protected speech and a threat to national security. Governors in New York, California, Illinois, and elsewhere declare their opposition, promising to refuse compliance in their states. Trump orders their arrests. Trump pardons every January 6th attacker, including those who assaulted the police, and in a White House ceremony issues a new presidential medal honoring them. Many are given jobs in his administration. The Department of Education is renamed the Department of American Values and mandates a nationwide Christian nationalist curriculum for all schools receiving federal aid. Trump, joined by Speaker Mike Johnson and evangelical leaders, announces that the Department of Health and Human Services has reclassified mifepristone, making it illegal to distribute or prescribe, as well as new HHS regulations that make IVF treatments impossible to legally administer. Trump reverses one campaign promise by declaring a national abortion ban by executive order. Challenges to his authority are rejected by the Supreme Court, which has seen new appointments from Trump after it was expanded to 12 justices. He signs an executive order removing abortion records from HIPAA privacy regulations and announces a new federal data sharing program so states can monitor women's periods. Thousands are detained while crossing state lines under suspicion of seeking an abortion. Trump's acting Secretary of Defense, a disgraced ex-general, fires over 400 generals and admirals, leaving the military leaderless. Other Trump appointees purge the ranks of the CIA, FBI, and Department of Justice. By executive order, Trump withdraws the United States from NATO and ends Pentagon cooperation with Ukraine. Russian tanks enter Kyiv. Vladimir Zelensky is killed. It is announced that Trump will run for a third term, claiming he was unfairly cheated in the 2020 election. His Supreme Court ultimately agrees with this interpretation, paving the way for Trump's 2028 re-election. If you hear all this and believe it isn't possible, then ask yourself, what did you believe was impossible just 8 years ago? This isn't a fantasy. It's Trump's plan, and he's counting on you to believe it couldn't happen.
Again, we tried to tell you these things were going to happen. We told you this man was petty. We told you he was shameful. We told you he was pathetic. And guess what? Some of y'all still voted for him. And so for the people who are like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Why? The thug literally said it. He signed a series of executive orders, getting rid of all DEI. I just sat here and read, just hold on. I just sat here and read a tweet, y'all, that was unbelievable. It said, buried amidst all of the, this is Senator Tina Smith. She said, buried in the flurry of executive orders last night is one that halts all funding from the bipartisan infrastructure law. Yes, the law that Republicans and Democrats came together to pass that fixes our roads, modernizes old bridges, makes drinking water safer. Now remember, this asshat for 4 years, Infrastructure Week, never passed a bill. One of his first actions. We want to talk about, again, the kind of actions that you see taking place. How petty is he? Oh, John Bolton, who the Iranians were trying to assassinate Donald Trump. Oh, because Bolton was a critic of Donald Trump said, that's it. The Secret Service protection that Biden gave you, revoked. Bolton said he got a phone call. He told CNN's Jim Costa, told him, got a call 11:30 last night from the Secret Service saying your Secret Service is being revoked at noon today. Oh, how about this one here? Go to my iPad. Just 10 days ago, this portrait, let me restart it. This portrait of General Mark Milley, okay? This former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, this was just unveiled 10 days ago. Guess what? Moments after the swearing in, rejected, taken down. That's right. So his portrait will not be in the Pentagon for the next 4 years. It goes on and on and on. But we told y'all this was going to happen. And guys, the lower third is wrong, as we tried to tell you, not you. We tried to tell you. Bring my pound, Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for environmental justice, the EPA out of D.C. Also joining us is Joe Richardson, civil rights attorney out of L.A. We'll be joined later by Joy Cheney, founder, Joy Strategies out of D.C. Again, Mustafa, nobody can be surprised what this thug is doing. He said what he was going to do. His supporters, they cheered that. They loved it. They threw their arms up. And so guess what? He's doing exactly what the thug said he was going to do.
Yeah, you know, what was that old adage? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I mean, he was very clear of the things that he was going to do. Everybody has been clear. Donald Trump shared exactly what he was going to do. Project 2025 said exactly what they wanted to see happen. Agenda 47 was very clear about these things. So I don't know why anyone is surprised. Maybe they think that no one could possibly ever stoop this low, or to have no forethought about how this will overall impact our country and our standing in the world. But he doesn't care about that. He's fine. The people that he surrounds himself with are extremely wealthy individuals, so they're going to be fine. But the people who will be hurt are everyday folks. Of course, our most vulnerable communities will take many, many hits. We will lose lives. Folks will get sick. You know, they'll end up losing homes, all these different types of things. But the people who think that they won't be impacted, everybody's always like, well, that could never happen here. And then it does. And what you'll find is that those folks who are in the middle class, they will also have huge amounts of impacts that are going on because they didn't pay attention and because they thought it was the others who would be the ones who would have to carry the weight for the, the various things that Donald Trump has already said he's going to do through his executive orders and the things that are coming day after day after day. So, unfortunately, you end up getting what you don't, what you don't vote for or what you vote for. For those who sat on the couch and didn't vote, you get it too. And for those who actually went out there and cast their vote for somebody who's told you that he doesn't care about your communities and he doesn't care about the future for your children, now you've got to actually deal with that as well.
Joe?
Yeah, I mean, you're in, you kind of bought this. This is what you bought. My mom used to say, you made your bed, now you get to lay in it. And so, you have a situation where there's all kinds of things that the president could do to seek to exact revenge. There's no discussion, if you'll notice, about prices, the things that actually people, well-intentioned people, they got it wrong, but well-intentioned people were hoping that he'd do. No indications related to that. If anything, it's the opposite. What's the point of stopping funding from the infrastructure law? Maybe just despite that Biden got it done, but he didn't. What's the point with, letting all of these folks off related to this insurrection? Just letting the folks off that went along with him and did basically what he told them to do. And so, this is just the beginning. And you're going to have to kind of, fasten your seatbelts because there's no way that the things that he is doing are not going to affect regular people. There's no way that you could actually think you could actually stand next to Donald Trump, whether you're the administration or whether you are a citizen that voted for him, and really think with certainty that he would never do something that has the potential to hurt you, if not devastate you. And that's just kind of where we are, and people are going to have to find out the hard way.
Oh yeah, they're gonna find the hard way. And again, I'm not shocked when it went down yesterday. It's not like people were texting me in group chats. They were going, all 1,500. I was like, oh yeah, sweeping pardon, full, absolutely. And Lincoln Project is right. Oh, don't be shocked if this man invites them to the White House for a big lawn party. Don't be surprised. Hell, he might literally give all of them the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I wouldn't put none of that past him, Mustafa, because this is his army. These are his thugs. This is his militia. And people need to be concerned because what he's saying is, if people do harm in my name, I'm going to hook them up.
Well, he's got to feed the base, right? So, he's got his soldiers, right, that are out there. These folks, these insurrectionists, so of course we know are domestic terrorists. He has got to continue to feed the base. So, congressional medals, but he's got to also continue to do the most outrageous things because that is what they signed on for and what they expect from him. So when you see these actions that he said he was going to do around immigration, separation of families, trying to, do some things around the 14th Amendment, he gets that, from previous presidents, who have done some really just amazingly egregious things who are for racists. So when you look at all these different types of things that he has to do, when he is willing to destroy the environment, when he's willing to go after environmental injustices, even though he knows lower wealth white communities will also be impacted by dirtier air and dirtier water, when he tries to strip away education, he knows who's going to be impacted by that. So he's got to continue to feed the beast that he has created and the beast that evidently he is. We've just got to make sure that we are organizing and mobilizing and, utilizing the few opportunities that actually will exist in the court system. And we've got to make sure that we're also building community so that when folks are being impacted, they're not out there by themselves, and that we fill the gap until we can make changes happen. So we've got to understand that we still have power. It's less, it's harder to get our arms around, but we can't just throw our arms up in the air and say we're just going to allow these egregious things to happen. We have to stand in community.
Oh, absolutely. And so it's just about being real, about being honest. I think I think that what you're doing here is people just don't understand. I do want to bounce this off of y'all. I just saw this here. So do everybody remember when Vice President Kamala Harris was swearing in the senators, and so Deb Fisher of Nebraska was sworn in, and her asshole of a husband did this here? Watch this here.
In the middle, scoot over a little. No, it's okay, we're right. Don't worry. Okay. We're ready. Okay. Do you solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States? Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you. Congratulations to you. Thank you. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, sure. Okay.
That way, just a little bit. There you go. Thank you so much. Ready? 1, 2, and 3. Hold it. Ready? 1, 2, and 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
And of course, he was just quite arrogant, not even wanting to shake her hand, walking off. Well, CNN's Edward Isaac Dovere posted this here. Give me 1 second. Let me close this box. I saw this story and I said, ooh, I just love this here. Headline, go to my iPad. At White House tea, Imhoff rebuffed the man who didn't shake Harris's hand. It said here, at the ceremonial tea at the White House before the motorcades head to the U.S. Capitol, the former second gentleman, Doug Imhoff, refused a handshake from Bruce Fisher, the husband of inauguration co-chair Nebraska Senator Deb Fisher. A person familiar with the interaction tells CNN. The tense moment came after a violent exchange, blah, 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 blah. It says, let's see here. It was still on Imhoff's mind on Monday. Why would you try to shake my hand, he told Bruce Fisher, when you wouldn't shake my wife's hand? It says the vice president and the senator were not involved in the interaction, even though Bruce Fisher did later make his way back over to apologize, the source told CNN. And by the time they headed to the car to the Capitol, tempers had cooled, and there was a cordial conversation which touched on golf, among other things. I'm with Doug 100%, Joe. Your punk ass disrespect my wife? No, I ain't shaking your punk ass hand.
Doug, listen, Doug is a real one. You remember when they were on the stage that time, that person walked up to him, and you saw the look on Doug's face. Doug was looking like Thug Life. He ran up there in front of the security. So, Doug is down for his wife now. I love me some Doug now. But this is what lets you know kind of what you're dealing with. You've got this man who would actually have enough nerve not to even shake the vice president's hand and then go to her husband like everything is everything. No problem at all. So he doesn't even see them as one. He doesn't even see them. He doesn't even see them as God would see them, right? Those of us that are church-going folk, and I give you 10-1, he showed up at church on time on Sunday. I bet you, okay? So this lets you know kind of what we're dealing with. But I'm glad that Doug was down for his wife like that. That's the way we all should be. The only thing I guess he could have done is I guess he could have punched him or something, but he was acting cool. But he asked him, why would I shake your hand when you wouldn't shake my wife's hand? So I appreciate that, but it lets you know what it is that we're dealing with. You try to do things. This woman's been vice president for 4 years. She's done what she's done professionally. She's probably forgot more about politics than this man knows. And this man somehow believes that he shouldn't be shaking his hand and shaking her hand and embarrassing his wife that way.
Here's my whole deal, Mustafa. I ain't down with the bullshit. That's how you want to roll now, bro. You ain't come and shake my hand. It ain't gonna happen. See,
that's what I'm talking about.
I just don't believe in normalizing this crap. I don't believe that you get to show your ass and I then have to be the one, it's decorum and the way things are supposed to be. Nah, Mustafa, those rules are gone. Those days are gone. These people, just like Trump sat here, apparently he called inspirational the letter that Joe Biden left him in the drawer. Did Trump leave a letter for Joe Biden? When Trump came to the White House, oh, I'm sorry, I don't recall that meeting taking place after the election in 2020. Oh, Trump's punk ass, along with Melania's trifling ass, didn't even come to the inauguration. See, I'm sorry. Look, there are other people who are like, oh no, from a president, it's the institution, we must do these things. No, Obama and Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton coming to the inauguration, and Trump's old trifling ass people are booing them from the rafters. Gross disrespect. These folks don't show respect, but always want somebody to give them respect.
Yeah, that's because folks let them punk them all the time. You know what time it is. I mean, if you grew up in the streets, you already know if you let somebody punk you one time, they're going to come back and do it again and again and again. And each time they're going to try and take more of your dignity, more of your soul, more of your resources, whatever it might be. And that's why I appreciate Michelle Obama, because she said, you know what, I'm not even dealing with this foolishness. If y'all want to go ahead and play them silly games, then you go right ahead. You know, and the other part, too, is I appreciate Doug, too, because if you step to my family, we're going to have a problem. So I'm glad that it didn't escalate to that, because as my mother would say, just because somebody is uncouth doesn't mean that you have to be. But, you know, I believe from my daddy's side, sometimes you just got to hem somebody up and let them know what time it is.
I'm letting you know my ass petty. I'm petty. I'm going to give you all of it back. I done told y'all the story when I was at the TV anchors meeting when the thug was there last time. And when he came into the room, all the TV anchors moved towards him. Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr. President. They were shaking his hand. I was that Simpson meme. I fell back into the bushes. And he had to come my way. And I'm like, listen, I said, when he come to me, I said, I can't call him Mr. Trump. I said, Mr. President. Then I'm like, I can't call him Mr. Trump. So when he finally got to me and stuck his hand out, oh, good to see you. I went, hi. That's all he can get from me. I'm sorry. I'm not going to give you that respect that you have not earned when you disrespect the office on a consistent basis. So folk need to understand we're going to see a whole bunch of this nonsense over the next 4 years, but that's what we're dealing with. But this is also what happens when a lot of y'all sat y'all ass on the couch and didn't vote. And even in places where Vice President Kamala Harris won, like in Virginia, a whole bunch of people still sat their ass on the couch. So that's why we got these shirts right here. We got them made up. I'm going to wear the shirt tomorrow. Go ahead and pull the graphic up. That's right there. It said, don't blame me. I voted for the black woman. So if y'all want to get that shirt, y'all can go to rolandmartin.creator-spring.com or go to the Black Star Network to get y'all merchandise. But don't blame me. I voted for the black woman.
Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. You heard what we just talked about there. Folks, I can't reiterate this enough. Listen to me clearly. I cannot reiterate this enough. When you've got technology companies running scared, when you've got legacy media not doing their job, when you've got black-owned media that has disintegrated, now is more than ever for us to have independent media that cares about the truth, that is willing to say what needs to be said. So when you support Roland Martin Unfiltered, this show, when you support the Black Star Network, you're not just supporting me, you're supporting the other shows. Our goal is to add 2 more shows this year. We want additional shows. We want more weekly and daily shows because we want to be able to speak truth to power. We want to be able to say what is necessary where other people are scared. And when you are scared, when you're looking over your shoulder, oh my God, that advertising contract is not going to come in. Well, guess what? A lot of these major ad agencies, they're not even supporting us anyway. You know, in 6 years of doing this show, Group M hasn't done a damn thing with us. Publicis hasn't done anything with us. You've got Horizon, you've got all of these folks, they haven't done jack. And so we are calling it like we see it, and we're speaking truth. And unlike some of these other so-called progressives and people who believe in truth, I'm not running around trying to kiss MAGA ass and kiss Trump's ass. I won't be going to Mar-a-Lago, not for a damn thing. And so this is about us being able to speak truth. So when you support this show and this network with your resources, that is exactly what is happening, because we are trying to build something that is bigger and broader, and actually it has the courage to say what needs to be said, even when it makes other folk uncomfortable. If you want to contribute giving Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. This is it right here. And if you are listening, simply go to blackstarnetwork.com to check it out. Also, if you want to see your checking money order, some of y'all old school, we understand that. See your checking money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 2003-7-0196. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And again, folks, we've got some 4 million social media followers. If only 20,000 of our fans contribute at least $50 each, which comes out to $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day, that's $1 million. It allows us to be able to continue to build, to add these shows and do the work that's required. So your support is needed. So please join our Bring the Funk fan club today. If you've not already joined, if you have given to us in the past, please renew your commitment, because it's important that we support Black-owned media, because Black-owned media matters. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas, she joins us right now. Congresswoman Crockett, thank you so very much. Listen, we know what they're doing. We saw this movie before. They want to throw so many things at one time and have people just scatterbrained, disillusioned, but I'm not falling for the okie doke. What this is about, Congresswoman, is they want to attack the money source. They do not want to see Black advancement. They want to go after the money, and they're not satisfied with white women getting 78% of the federal NWBE contracts. They want 100%. And those white women are silent. And so folk need to understand, and frankly, Democrats need to understand they got to be a hell of a lot more aggressive in understanding the game being played here.
Yeah, so for me, it is overwhelming for so many people. He operates in chaos and only chaos and confusion. And he consistently hides some of the really big things in the chaos, right? So I appreciate that you're talking about the executive order as it relates to civil rights. And so I think it is important for people to understand that Republicans and Democrats alike, including Donald Trump, consistently signed off on this EO. And this time, he decided that he was going to rescind it, right? And so when people are like, oh, well, what is it about immigration? And, oh, what is this DEI thing? And, oh, what is this going on over here? Here's the reality. It is all rooted in white supremacy. And that's what people need to understand. The white supremacy agenda is alive and well. And every single one of these attacks, they are rooted in white supremacy. So unless you are a white man, I don't really know what place you have in this agenda that we see coming out. And by keeping us divided, by having those that understand the importance of affirmative action, those that understand the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion over here fighting this fight, and then those that are so concerned about their family members and whether or not they're going to be deported, they're over here in this other fight. Instead of uniting us, we need to understand that it's not an attack on just one group. It's an attack on all of us, and it is all rooted in white supremacy. Even this random whitewashing of Jesus and this narrative around Christianity. It is the white supremacist narrative of Christianity, the same one that kept Black folk enslaved.
Well, here's a perfect example. I'm going to pull this up for you. Today, I was perusing social media, and people need to understand you got to be careful with, because it can get real overwhelming. So this tweet here came up from this Geiger Capital, and he tweets, affirmative action is systemic racism. Not my opinion, look at the data. So he shows Harvard applicants, all in the top academic, had vastly different chances of admission depending on their race. And so he puts this here, okay? So this is the first one that he puts. And so Hugh Hewitt, conservative radio show host, retweeted this, and I saw it. And so I, of course, responded this way. Hey, Geiger Capital and Hugh Hewitt, now do legacy. Please tell me the race and gender of Harvard students admitted due to legacy. White people never want to call out legacy. I'll wait. And of course, Congresswoman, they never responded because what they know for a fact is that if you put on legacy, that's absolutely white people. And so they want to label everything else, oh, this is about merit. But legacy ain't merit. It's a whole bunch of grossly unqualified white folks getting into colleges and universities because their parents and grandparents went there. And that's the game they love to play.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. When they try to play this game, I just remind them of the people that Trump has decided should be in his cabinet. They are all unqualified. Let me tell you something. I can find somebody of every color, of every sex, of every gender, of everything that is better qualified than every single one of his nominees. I absolutely can. Because right now, what we see playing out and the reason that we needed affirmative action is because it's always been this cronyism. It's been the good old boy system. And it was about making sure not that you were given a hand-me-out, but instead of you saying the pool of people that I'm looking at, they are only white men. Instead, I'm going to look at everybody. And I'm going to try to make sure that we have everybody here. Y'all can talk about admissions all you want to, but when it came down to getting grads such as Barack Obama, he may have been admitted because of affirmative action, but I can tell you for sure that he didn't somehow become the president of the United States as the only black person to hold that seat because of affirmative action. He became president because he had a work ethic about him. And back then, we actually cared about ethics in some way. So he had one wife. He had one woman that he had children with. He had no criminal record. That is what we required. And he also was intelligent. Yes, it may have been affirmative action that got him there, but it wasn't affirmative action that was going to keep him there. So whether or not we get a chance is all it's about, is making sure that you will say. It's basically like I've been talking about, we need to take up the ban the box legislation, which is legislation that I filed on the state level. Well, considering the fact that we have a 34-count convicted felon that is sitting in the White House, arguably the most prestigious job that you can have in this country, and he just happens to be a felon. I don't know why somebody can't get a job at the Walmart because we refuse to ban the box on the application. That's honestly what it is. What it is literally saying, I am going to consider you even if this is your record. What it is saying, I'm going to consider you even if you aren't a man. I'm going to consider you even if you don't happen to be white. That is all it is. It's opening up the consideration and giving us a chance. But at the end of the day, just like any other black person will tell you in this country, we have always had to work 10 times harder. So just because they gave us a chance, let me tell you, it is so much more difficult for us to say.
Last question for you. I know you have lots of other things to do. It's been already a very long day. When it comes to Democrats, and listen, you tried to become chair of the Democratic Policy and Communications, whatever the title of that committee is, and I can tell you, here we are almost at the end of January, and look, very limited opportunities that we've heard from Democratic groups, DNC, from House, Senate, or whatever. And I'm just trying to understand, after the shellacking that took place in November, after we saw what happened, how Republicans utilize independent media, streaming shows, things along those lines, are Democratic leaders going to wake up and realize this is a communications war and paper press releases ain't gonna cut it?
I don't know. all I can tell you is thank you for being my constituent. I had the best numbers in the entire state of any challenged Democrat or Republican seeking re-election because I believe in communication. And the way that I do communication is completely different. And I can tell you that the old school way of thinking, and I won't name any names, but I definitely remember someone who's actually gone on who talked to me and said, well, there's no way you can do all of that media and be effective. And I'm like, I can kind of walk and chew gum. Like, I can do both, right? There is a sentiment, seemingly from old school Democrats, that you kind of keep your head down and you just do the work. And I do want to be clear. We absolutely need to do the work. But if no one knows what you've done, really, what was the point? Right? And so that's where I see it differently. And I try to explain to people, it's kind of like a teacher. When teachers walk into a classroom, they should understand that people will be better learners in different ways. Some people are auditory, some people are visual, some people are going to be hands-on. And so what does that mean? It still translates even when these children become adults, that some people just take their information in different ways. And so we need to know that they take them in different spaces and in different forms. And we need to make sure that we're prioritizing all of them. And right now is when we should be communicating a lot. You shouldn't wait till election time. I mean, you know, we all seen what I call the Chitlin circuit, right? When it's election time and everybody comes to the black church. Like, why can't you come when it's not election time, right? Like, come tell us what you've been doing so that we know, and literally you stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And right now, I feel as if I really am about to experience what Shirley Chisholm went through and what Barbara Jordan went through and what so many others who were first went through as they were trying to break through the noise, but they were doing it in a time in which people at least had some kind of ethics about them. Ethics is out the window. Right versus wrong is gone.
Yep.
Like, it's all out the window. And so, you know, if we don't tell our stories, then somebody else is going to co-opt those stories and is going to tell them for us. And we will be back here in 4 years or in 2 years or whenever talking about we don't understand why we lost again.
Yep. I keep saying that Democrats are playing a political game that no longer exists. And so they want to play by a set of rules, and Republicans are like, what rules? We're just going to create whatever we want to do, and y'all can suck it up. Congresswoman Crockett, keep swinging. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks a bunch.
Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. You heard we just talked about there. Folks, I can't reiterate this enough. Listen to me clearly. I cannot reiterate this enough. When you've got technology companies running scared, when you've got legacy media not doing their job, when you've got black-owned media that is disintegrated, now is more than ever for us to have independent media that cares about the truth, that is willing to say what needs to be said. So when you support Roland Martin Unfiltered, this show, when you support the Black Star Network, you're not just supporting me, you're supporting the other shows. Our goal is to add 2 more shows this year. We want additional shows. We want more weekly and daily shows because we want to be able to speak truth to power. We want to be able to say what is necessary where other people are scared. And when you are scared, when you're looking over your shoulder, oh my God, that advertising contract is not going to come in. Well, guess what? A lot of these major ad agencies, they're not even supporting us anyway. You know, in 6 years of doing this show, Group M hasn't done a damn thing with us. Publicis hasn't done anything with us. You've got Horizon, you've got all of these folks, they haven't done jack. And so we are calling it like we see it, and we're speaking truth. And unlike some of these other so-called progressives and people who believe in truth, I'm not running around trying to kiss MAGA ass and kiss Trump's ass. I won't be going to Mar-a-Lago, not for a damn thing. And so this is about us being able to speak truth. So when you support this show and this network with your resources, it is exactly what is happening because we are trying to build something that is bigger and broader, and actually it has the courage to say what needs to be said, even when it makes other folk uncomfortable. If you want to contribute giving Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. This is it right here. And if you are listening, simply go to blackstarnetwork.com to check it out. Also, if you want to see your check and money order, some of y'all old school, we understand that. See your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 2003 7-0196. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And again, folks, we've got some 4 million social media followers. If only 20,000 of our fans contribute at least $50 each, which comes out to $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day, that's $1 million that allows us to be able to continue to build, to add these shows and do the work that's required. So your support is needed. So please join our Bring the Funk fan club today. If you've not already joined, if you have given to us in the past, please renew your commitment because it's important that we support Black-owned media because Black-owned media matters.
Something else happened today that I need to warn y'all. So Donald Trump signed an executive order declassifying all of the papers regarding the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and Senator Robert F. Kennedy. Let me explain to y'all what's about to happen. What's about to happen. In 5 or 6 years, the FBI so-called recordings of Dr. King were set to be released. Those will now be released. The FBI, who I simply do not believe, claims that Dr. King, they have recordings of Dr. King having affairs, involved in orgies. They claim that he was with a white prostitute in Las Vegas. And these were all notes. David Garrow wrote a story. No American media entity would run the story. So he went to a small outlet overseas. And there were the notes, and these notes were a part of the JFK papers at the I think Library of Congress or National Archives. And so he wrote a story based upon the notes. So Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, when he did all his videos trashing King, oh, we shouldn't be celebrating him. Let me explain to you why they doing this here. I just want y'all to understand what's about to come down. They are going to try to completely destroy the legacy of Dr. King. I guarantee you, when these papers are released and you get the recordings and all the stuff from the FBI, people are gonna say, take his name off of streets, take his name off of elementary schools. We should not have programs honoring him. We should not have scholarship programs. He was not a moral man. I'm telling y'all, don't think for a second that this executive order signed by Trump, is all about, let's just get at the truth of what happens. I'm telling y'all right now, and let me just be on record right now, in advance of whatever is released. And I'm just gonna say this here, and I remember, and I'm gonna quote my dear alpha brother, Andrew Young, when I asked him this question. I think we actually got it on tape as well in the interview that I did with him in Atlanta, when I asked him about this very thing, and he said, fuck them. Listen to me clearly. Anything that is released related to the private life of Dr. King, who was not a perfect man, no man or woman is perfect. Anything released from the FBI and J. Edgar Hoover and his COINTEL program is full of shit. They tried to get King to kill himself. They doctored tapes. They sent stuff to Coretta Scott King. I absolutely believe nothing, absolutely nothing that comes from this FBI as it relates to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and J. Edgar Hoover's name shouldn't even be on the FBI building here in Washington, D.C., because he was a racist, corrupt, evil son of a bitch. And that should be the reaction every Black America gives when anything comes out about Dr. King released from this federal government and from this FBI. Greg, go ahead.
Agree with you. Of course, this is the only reason that these documents are being declassified. We know Robert Kennedy Jr. believes there was conspiracy to assassinate his uncle, and I agree with that in concept. I don't think James Earl Ray killed Martin Luther King, and I don't think those shots came from over the grass of the school depository building. And there's a lot of scholarship on it, and people will argue, take sides. But let's be crystal clear about the King files. It is exactly what you said. Now, I will say though that I think John Hoover's name should be on the building because the FBI is a criminal enterprise. I don't think that for the same reasons that the MAGA people think it. I think that it's a criminal enterprise because as a person of African descent, it has never done anything other than attack and persecute and prosecute us. I'm glad to see Leonard Peltier home after decades, but Assata Shakur still can't come back. And so, but that having been said, what you have just said, folk, listen to everything tonight, but listen very carefully to this. We need to brace for this because, I think about some of the most brilliant thinkers, theologians we have, everybody from Jeremiah Wright to Vashti McKenzie. And, that world is a world that is populated by human beings. And we often hold our people to standards that other people don't. And I'm not saying we shouldn't, but I'm saying that we don't allow our people to be human. And Dr. King didn't make it 40 years old. And I'm glad you evoked David Garrow. David Garrow is a first-class researcher. He's done so much important work. Anybody get his book, Rising Sun, on Barack Obama, you won't look at Obama the same. It always cracks me up when people say, I'm critical of Obama. And people opening their mouths and have never read one word of one sentence, one paragraph of one page of anything about Barack Obama. You read David Garrow, you look at the whole world differently. And even Jonathan Ives' recent book on King came out a couple of summers ago. But it doesn't displace what Martin Luther King did. Unlike the young girl lover, Matt Gaetz, unlike the convicted sexual predator, Donald Trump, unlike damn near the whole Republican Party, Dr. King gave his life for everybody, regardless of color. And so I'll just end with this, and I just want to underscore what you said, Roland, and really, really, really support what you said, every word of it. And please, people, when these tapes are revealed, and they're only revealed because they want to take who they think is the champion, the central figure representing the moral standard of African people, which is the only reason there is a funky criminal enterprise called United States of America. Let's be very clear about that. And I don't think that it's going to take a century to claw back, because I don't think the United States is going to be here in a century, not in the current form. Not in its current form. I think it's inevitable. That's why they're pulling out the stops now. Steve Bannon is very clear about this, and I join him shoulder to shoulder and say, you're absolutely right, Mr. Bannon. Y'all don't have another play but this. This is the only play you have, and it's going to fail. It's going to fail. Anytime the damn ADL is supporting Elon Musk, who is openly supporting the AfD in Germany, a damn neo-Nazi party, it's very clear that everybody going for themselves. So guess what? We are too. But when they come for Dr. King and the way they're going to come for Dr. King, any one of you Negroes that runs out and talking about taking down a statue or rejecting Martin Luther King, I want you to keep that same energy for every one of these sexually frustrated, late at night punk deviants who are running this government and running industry. Because if you think you can measure Martin Luther King by a standard and not measure them by the standard, then you are betraying not only our people, you're betraying your own humanity.
Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. You heard we just talked about there. Folks, I can't reiterate this enough. Listen to me clearly. I cannot reiterate this enough. When you've got technology companies running scared, when you got legacy media not doing their job, when you got black-owned media that is disintegrated, now is more than ever for us to have independent media that cares about the truth, that is willing to say what needs to be said. So when you support Roland Martin Unfiltered, this show, when you support the Black Star Network, you're not just supporting me, you're supporting the other shows. Our goal is to add 2 more shows this year. We want additional shows. We want more weekly and daily shows because we want to be able to speak truth to power. We want to be able to say what is necessary where other people are scared. And when you are scared, when you're looking over your shoulder, oh my God, that advertising contract is not going to come in. Well, guess what? A lot of these major ad agencies, they're not even supporting us anyway. You know, in 6 years of doing this show, Group M hasn't done a damn thing with us. Publicis hasn't done anything with us. You've got Horizon. You've got all of these folks. They haven't done jack. And so we are calling it like we see it, and we're speaking truth. And unlike some of these other so-called progressives and people who believe in truth, I'm not running around trying to kiss MAGA ass and kiss Trump's ass. I won't be going to Mar-a-Lago, not for a damn thing. And so this is about us being able to speak truth. So when you support this show and this network with your resources, that is exactly what is happening, because we are trying to build something that is bigger and broader, and actually it has the courage to say what needs to be said, even when it makes other folk uncomfortable. If you want to contribute giving Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. This is it right here. And if you are listening, simply go to blackstarnetwork.com to check it out. Also, because you want to see your checking money order, some of y'all old school, we understand that. See your checking money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 2003 7-0196. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And again, folks, we've got some 4 million social media followers. If only 20,000 of our fans contribute at least $50 each, which comes out to $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day, that's $1 million. It allows us to be able to continue to build, to add these shows and do the work that's required. So your support is needed. So please join our Bring the Funk fan club today. If you've not already joined, if you have given to us in the past, please renew your commitment, because it's important that we support Black-owned media, because Black-owned media matters.
With the stroke of a pen, the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief Donald Trump has dismantled affirmative action in federal contracting. On Tuesday, the Office of Personnel Management issued a memo instructing agencies to place diversity, equity, and inclusion office staff on paid leave, and all public DEI-focused web pages must be taken down by 5 p.m. Eastern today. These employees are expected to be laid off. Some have already been laid off. This executive order on affirmative action revokes a directive issued by President Lyndon Johnson that dealt with the issue of discrimination in federal contracting. Joining us right now is Damon Hewitt, President and Executive Director for the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. Don't ask me why he's wearing a purple tie being an alpha. Plus Ron Busby Sr., of course, President and CEO of the U.S. Black Chambers, Inc. No surprise he got a little red in his tie because he's a little Kappa. All right, let's get right to it. Damon, I'm going to start with you. First off, look, we know these guys have been targeting DEI, but the going after the Lyndon Baines Johnson executive order is a whole different thing, because that dealt specifically saying you can't discriminate in the hiring of folks when you're getting federal contract. That's a whole different conversation.
Well, look, we always knew, Roland, that they were going not just after issues, they're going after people and also going after the money. That's exactly what this is really about. The same reason why they went after federal contracting programs after the Students for Fair Admissions case, the higher ed affirmative action case. And so this is really troubling. You know, the message being sent here and the implications of this rescission is that federal contractors no longer have to undertake affirmative duties to root out discrimination in their own workplaces and their processes. This is essentially an invitation to discrimination. Yep. And the message is that it's open season on Black workers. And, you know, look, federal contractors represent 1/5 of the entire U.S. workforce. So this has massive implications for everyday working Black people.
And let's be real clear, which people don't seem to understand. Republicans used to support the civil rights laws. But when Barry Goldwater's book, The Conscience of a Conservative, came out, that flipped it. And then they opposed the Civil Rights Act. You've had conservatives and Republicans who have been saying that a person should be allowed to discriminate. And so that's really what this is about. They do not want to be held to the laws, the civil rights statute saying you cannot discriminate in the hiring. What they're saying is we want to be able to hire anybody we want to, and this is a burden telling us that we can't that we can't discriminate against somebody Black or Latino or Asian or somebody who's a woman. That's what this is really all about.
Yeah, you know, we're going to enter a period as follows. Number one, we're going to remind folks of the facts on the ground, but also the law, because no matter what Trump says in an executive order, that doesn't change Title VII. That's the law of employment discrimination. That law was not changed by the Supreme Court decision. That law has remained the same for a very long time. And so these employers have affirmative obligations. What this EO from 1965, the year after the Civil Rights Act, did was it added a layer of protection. It added a layer of affirmative duty for federal contractors to make sure that they were compliant with Title VII. So we're probably going to enter a period where this law will be in contest, a period of people talk about rapid evolution. This could be rapid devolution of workplace culture, of open season on Black workers and brown workers. And so we're going to have to meet these people in the courts of public opinion, but also in the courts of law.
Ron, I want to go to you. When the idiot Trump was there last time, you and I talked, and they stopped collecting racial data, correct?
Correct.
So the problem is, we didn't know what was happening. We didn't know what contracting was happening. We didn't know who was it getting. We didn't know if it was an increase or a decrease. And that they stopped collecting racial data across the board, correct?
Correct.
So when it came to, then what they did was they started bundling contracts instead of typically what happens on the Democrats, they unbundle. The only Republican who actually understood the unbundling of contracts was actually George W. Bush. And so typically Republicans, they bundle them back. And so really what we're seeing here with the attacks on, when we see these executive orders, couple that with last year, those federal judges ruling MBDA and also the AA program, what this means, and this is what I kept warning people during the campaign, even now, what they're doing is this is going to have a direct impact on Black businesses getting contracts, correct?
People don't understand that. And as we had been talking, and I know you have been saying it, Roland, voting and elections have consequences. And we had been saying for years, and we saw it during his first term, he tried to come out with the ban on Muslims. He got caught up in the process of George Floyd, and it took his attention away from his original plans. This time he came out the gate making it very clear that he was concerned about his supporters, about his billionaire friends and trillionaire friends, and making sure that the programs and the conversations that he talked about during his first term were going to be implemented immediately upon his inauguration. And we have seen that happen already.
And again, I want to reiterate this. And this is for all of the Simple Simon Negroes who on social media, who were doing radio, television interviews, talking about Trump is going to be putting money in our pockets and how all these things are going to be going down. What they need to understand is that what they are doing is they are going after the money. And then when they target Walmart, when they target McDonald's, when they target corporate America, they're not just saying, oh, let's get rid of these DEI offices. They're going after supply diversity, or what John Rogers with Arrow Capital calls business diversity. And so what we are going to see, and Black people need to wake up, over the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years, we're going to see a material decrease in billions of dollars flowing to Black-owned businesses who largely employ Black people, who fund HBCUs and Black interests. And so that is going to be the direct impact of what Trump and the Republicans are currently doing.
Let me make it more clear. During Obama's first term in office, the goal for minority spend was roughly 5%. He surpassed that and hit 7%. His second term in office, the goal was then 7%. He surpassed that goal and hit 9%. If you heard when President Biden got in office, the goal was to go from 11% to 15%. That scared the nation. What we found out was, as you've been discussing, the disaggregation of the numbers, because they will tell you it's 11%, 9%, 5%. But as you have just mentioned, we never knew what that meant to the Black community. And so during this last administration under President Biden, we said we were interested in 3 things. Intentionality. Let us know what you were doing for the Black community. We wanted transparency. We wanted to know what that percentage meant for black businesses, and then we wanted accountability. We wanted to know, okay, well, if they're not hitting the numbers, how can we motivate them, and what can we do to improve the conditions for black-owned businesses? And so the reason why MBDA, Minority Business Development Agency, was the first place to go under attack is because while we were there, the goal was to get the increase for black businesses from 1.5% of the entire country spend to 3%. I had black people fighting back on us saying, well, why 3%? Why not 13% or 10%? Understand this. Of the $960 billion that the country spends every year, $640 billion is set aside for products and services that all of us can apply, compete for. Of that,
so hold on. The $960 billion, that's what the federal government spends.
That's what the federal government.
Go ahead.
$640 billion is really available because the other portion is for the military. So of that $640 billion, 11% of that goes towards minority firms. But I want your audience to understand who is included in that minority. The second thing I want them to understand is it did not come out easily in reference to the disaggregation of the numbers. It was leaked out. And so once it was leaked out, then the federal government had to address it. And what we found is that of the 11%, the Asian community received 1.8% of the minority spend. They had the fewest number of businesses registered to do business with the federal government, but that's fine. They had large contracts. The Hispanic communities received 1.71% of the minority spend. Black business community had the largest number of businesses that were registered and certified to do business with the federal government. We received 1.5%, the least of all of the ethnic communities. And so you ask yourself, well, where is the spend going? White women, not women, white women received 78% of all of the minority spend. So people are saying, well, Ron, what are you guys doing to fight back on these attacks on DE&I? And I ask myself, well, where are white women? Because they have the biggest law that's available to them, whereas we have the biggest opportunity to gain in this conversation. And so the U.S. Black Chamber, along with other business organizations, are going to continue to fight to make sure that we have our share of the wealth of this country.
Now, again, before I go back to Damon, you gave the 1.5%, but also I want to speak in terms of actually real numbers.
That number represents about $10 billion.
And that $10 billion is the most we've ever gotten.
The most we've ever received. And to be honest, it was 1.5. Then in 2021, it went to 1.55. Then 2022, it has now gone to 1.61. So we, under Biden administration, have improved our conditions. We've improved the spend. We've improved our share. Now we cannot turn back and go back to where we were before.
Yeah, and so Damon, this is the thing that I think the people have to understand when we talk about the battle over civil rights. That is a direct relationship to the battle over civil rights. And that's what Dr. King understood. It was called the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. That was economics. He said in that speech, of course, which the goofy pastor on Monday did not mention when he talked about America giving black folks a check stamp, insufficient funds. And he always talked about, we came here to get that check. What people need to recognize is that the fight over these civil rights laws is direct because the conservatives, by targeting affirmative action in colleges, impacts black wealth, because we know a black college graduate makes more than a black person with a high school diploma, but a white man with a high school diploma makes more than a black college graduate. When they're targeting these, when they're targeting the law schools, now they're targeting, in terms of affirmative action for medical school. Then they're attacking a program in Minnesota to increase the number of black teachers, to increase the number of black doctors. When they attack these programs, they are attacking the ability of black people to make high 5-figure, 6-figure jobs and earn 7-figure jobs. This is a money battle, Damon.
It is. You know, Dr. King recognized that we could have laws that allow you to eat at lunch counter in a non-segregated environment, but if you can't afford to buy the lunch and buy the meal, then what are we doing here, right? So just to paraphrase Dr. King. So these folks understand this. They are trying to take any means of opportunity and cut it off at the knees. And frankly, if you read this executive order from Trump, labels them as illegal, labels entirely lawful methods as illegal, even things that aren't about race-conscious elections. This is not talking about set-asides or quotas or anything of that sort. This is, and that those things have their place, but this is all about entirely race-neutral methods of training, of education within workplaces among contractors, and also, let's call it insurance, to ensure that folks aren't being discriminated against. They're calling the efforts to stop discrimination in and of itself. And so it's all about limiting economic opportunity from every avenue of American life.
Absolutely. Damon Hewitt, Ron Busby, I appreciate both of y'all joining us on the show. We're going to have this conversation, trust me, a hell of a lot more over the next 4 years.
Thank you for having us.
We'll be here, man.
Bringing my panel right now, Rebecca Carruthers, Vice President, Fair Election Center out of D.C., Jade Mathis, Esquire, the Jade Mathis Law Firm out of D.C., and Political Sis, social media political activist out of Knightdale, North Carolina. Glad to have all three of you here. Rebecca, I'll start with you. I keep saying that if you go down 2 blocks from here, there's only one federal agency that shares a lawn with the White House, and that is the Treasury Department. White House is power, Treasury Department is money, power and money. If you ain't having a money conversation, you're not having an American conversation. And what people need to understand, which is why I wrote this book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. This is a money conversation. And what these right-wing MAGA people are pissed off about, they do not want to see black people continuing to advance. And so they want to shut down all of these programs that have aided African Americans in being able to generate wealth.
You know what, Roland? I spent a lot of time talking about how I grew up in the Midwest, Nebraska specifically. And one of the things I really learned about racism in this country, especially when my family would go to the South to visit relatives, is in the South, white people generally don't care about what you have as long as you don't live next door to them. If you live down the street, that's fine. You can have whatever you want. But up north and also in the Midwest, they don't care if you live next door to them. They don't care if you live across the street, but you better not be doing better than what they are. And so what's interesting with watching this new administration, the second term of President Trump, like you said, this is purely a money grab because quite frankly, $10 billion in a near $1 trillion budget really isn't that much money when we talked about the 1.5% that Black folks as a racial minority gets in these different set-asides to make sure there's a diverse supply chain within the federal government. And like when you talked about that 78% number, 78% of that, like $660 billion is going to white women. So in the grand scheme of things, $10 billion isn't that much for our community. It's not that much across the United States, quite frankly. But the fact that we are even getting that for some of these people, that's the problem because they feel like we should not be getting anything.
I mean, here's what's crazy, Jay. The white woman in Tennessee that sued the 8A program, here's what was crazy. She was a part of a program for women. That's how she was able to get contracts. She then sues the 8A program saying, oh, I can't participate in that, and she never even applied. So the white woman was mad at the program for minorities, and she was mad that it didn't include her, but she had no problem with the program that was for women, for white women like her. And this is what we are dealing with. These white folks talk about, oh no, it needs to be a meritocracy. It needs to be, oh no, we shouldn't have double standards. But they got no problem when we know white folks are getting a hookup for their whiteness.
Yes, and speaking of hookup, that is one word Trump never uses, or we don't hear often used, is nepotism, right? They talk about everything else, and we want it to be equal here, and gender rights, and all of this, but nepotism was the one key word that he always leaves out, which he was the beneficiary of, right? And I essentially feel like what Trump is saying about DEI is that he's implying that it's discriminatory, but it's only discriminatory when whites, Asian Americans, and white women, when they don't get their way or when they don't get the positions that they want. That's when it's discriminatory. I think that's the part that he's implying and willingly not saying.
No, he's not implying, they're actually saying it. That's what they're doing. Political sis, go ahead. You on mute. You on mute. Unmute.
I don't
Now, there you go. Go ahead.
Okay. One thing I don't think they understand, especially white women, veteran white men, is how DEI impacts them in a good way. When it comes to Obama, along with the LBJ executive order that Trump took away, Obama added the gender along with gender identity, I think. But that's going to affect white women as well as black women. So I think that's something we need to keep in mind. And I don't know why the Democrats, especially here in the South, can't drill that into white working people, white working women people. But I think if we can do that, then we can get somewhere with some votes.
But then that's going to require people to have a conversation they frankly are unwilling to have.
They're scared to have.
Of course.
Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. You heard we just talked about there. Folks, I can't reiterate this enough. Listen to me clearly. I cannot reiterate this enough. When you've got technology companies running scared, when you've got legacy media not doing their job, when you've got black-owned media that is disintegrated, now is more than ever for us to have independent media that cares about the truth, that is willing to say what needs to be said. So when you support Roland Martin Unfiltered, this show, when you support the Black Star Network, you're not just supporting me, you're supporting the other shows. Our goal is to add 2 more shows this year. We want additional shows. We want more weekly and daily shows because we want to be able to speak truth to power. We want to be able to say what is necessary where other people are scared. And when you are scared, when you're looking over your shoulder, oh my God, that advertising contract is not going to come in. Well, guess what? A lot of these major ad agencies, they're not even supporting us anyway. You know, in 6 years of doing this show, Group M hasn't done a damn thing with us. Publicis hasn't done anything with us. You've got Horizon, you've got all of these folks, they haven't done jack. And so we are calling it like we see it, and we're speaking truth. And unlike some of these other so-called progressives and people who believe in truth, I'm not running around trying to kiss MAGA ass and kiss Trump's ass. I won't be going to Mar-a-Lago, not for a damn thing. And so this is about us being able to speak truth. So when you support this show and this network with your resources, that is exactly what is happening, because we are trying to build something that is bigger and broader, and actually it has the courage to say what needs to be said, even when it makes other folk uncomfortable. If you want to contribute giving Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. This is it right here. And if you are listening, simply go to blackstarnetwork.com to check it out. Also, if you want to see your check and money order, some of y'all old school, we understand that. See your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 2003 7-0196. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And again, folks, we've got some 4 million social media followers. If only 20,000 of our fans contribute at least $50 each, which comes out to $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day, that's $1 million. It allows us to be able to continue to build, to add these shows and do the work that's required. So your support is needed. So please join our Bring the Funk fan club today. If you've not already joined, if you have given to us in the past, please renew your commitment, because it's important that we support Black-owned media, because Black-owned media matters.
This is what the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon in chief said on Monday at the Insurrection Fest at the U.S. Capitol.
We had a powerful win in all 7 swing states, and the popular vote, we won by millions of people. To the Black and Hispanic communities, I want to thank you for the tremendous outpouring of love and trust that you have shown me with your vote. We set records, and I will not forget it. I've heard your voices in the campaign, and I look forward to working with you in the years to come. Today is Martin Luther King Day, and his honor, this will be a great honor, but in his honor, we will strive together to make his dream a reality. We will make his dream come true.
And what did that liar do? Gut the very things that King fought for. And if you Black and you fail for that bullshit, you are a dumbass, Nola.
He couldn't even get it out. He couldn't even finish the statement because it wasn't authentic. He couldn't even finish the end of the statement that we're going to make his dream come true. Lies. Lies. And, you know, I'm so happy that we're talking about Du Bois because, you know, in the great debate between Booker T. Washington and Du Bois, in many ways, I am a Du Boisian. And I'm going to kind of come back to this MLK, this kind of worship, you know, at the altar of MLK when it's MLK Day. And I would also say, you know, don't be surprised if they circle back and try to not make MLK a federal national holiday. I'm gonna just go ahead and put that out there. But, you know, as we're having this conversation, you know, Roland, as you're walking us through the different reconstructions, the one thing that is rolling around in my head, and, you know, Greg made so many salient points, that question that Du Bois asked in The Soul of Black Folk, how does it feel to be a problem? It is a question that is so salient in this moment, because what you're talking about is Black people have been a problem in this country since the day we were stolen from Africa and brought here illegally. We have been a problem because you can't get rid of us. Everything has been tried. You treated us like cattle. You enslaved us. You put us on plantations. There was Jim Crow, Black codes, everything you can think of. We have survived. And every time we surpass a little bit of surviving and maybe get to thriving, to your point, it is completely taken away from us. And, you know, I had posted something on my Instagram, not the popular speeches from MLK, but it was this one quote that he said, basically, how dare you ask of a man to pull himself up by his bootstraps when he does not own any boots? That's paraphrasing. And so essentially, this is like, this is the story of Black person, the Black person in America. How do you expect us to continue to fight over and over and over and over when people are constantly trying to steal our boots? The raggedy boots we may have on, that we are proud to wear, and they are constantly trying to take our boots. And I'm such a Du Boisian. I actually have him on my international relations and race syllabus, something that I got a lot of side eyes for, but I don't care. But you really have to think about this in a context of what we've represented from day one in this country. And also, I'm going to bring in Barack Obama into this. The fact that that Black man was the president of this country and pretty much went 8 years unscathed, you know, no major dramas outside of the tan suit, you know, him and his really Black wife, you know, that did something to white America. It drove them insane, right? It literally drove them insane. So everything that we're seeing is successive. Everything is successive. And you want to even go further back to that. I always tell people, if you've never seen BlacKkKlansman, please watch BlacKkKlansman and watch it until the end. Because what Spike Lee does at the end of that movie with David Duke and how they have been generationally trying to get to a Project 2025 moment. They have been putting in the work for generations. They have been reworking and retooling. And this is where we are now. We've made too many strides. There's been a Negro as a president. Oh, no. No. These Black folks are being way too fancy. Way too fancy. We have to snatch their boots. And this is a moment that we're in right now, the snatching of the boots. When you told us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, oh, but that's DEI, right? That's not merit. We didn't deserve any of those boots that we put on ourselves. So here we are again. They're trying to make us bootless. But what we do know is how to be a damn problem in the United States of America.
See, Larry, I love these people, especially my haters, who out see Larry, they were, Roland Martin trying to tell y'all to vote, and why you gotta vote, and all this. Guess what? The conservatives were waiting for us to be stupid. The conservatives were waiting for us to sit on the couch. For all y'all smart asses out there, let me help y'all out. Do y'all know the justification that Chief Justice John Roberts gave for gutting Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act? It came post-election of Obama. He said, well, since they voting in record numbers, there's no need for Section 4. And guess what has happened since 2012? Our vote numbers went down in 2014, in 2016, in 2018, in 2020, in 2022, in 2024. We didn't show up in Louisiana, and guess what? Crazy, deranged MAGA Jeff Landry was elected. There are more eligible Black voters in Texas than any state in the union. And guess what? We barely are hitting 50%. Even in places like Atlanta, where you should be seeing turnout at 50 and 60 and 70 and 75%. No, we're seeing turnout in the mayoral elections at 18, 20, 22, and 26. And so what these conservatives are sitting here doing is saying, thank you. Thank you. We have so frustrated y'all. We have so devalued y'all. We have told y'all how the Democrats don't do nothing for y'all, so therefore you don't vote for them, and you sitting on the couch, all it does is solidify our power. And as a result, they are running the table in places all across the country. The reality is that there's no reason Republicans should ever have a supermajority in North Carolina. They don't have it now. But if Black folks voted our numbers in North Carolina, that would never happen. In fact, if Black folks would vote with our numbers in South Carolina would change. Georgia would change. Florida would change. Mississippi would change. When Mike Espy lost to Cindy Hyde Smith in that special election, he lost by 65,000 votes. There were more than 100,000 eligible Black people in Mississippi who could have voted, but who did not. And so for all of y'all who love to sit here and talk about, man, you always talking about voting. You always talking about voting. I don't know why you always talking about voting. Now you understand what happens when they have power. Now you understand when the pardons come down and they get rid of, they sign executive orders and they begin to gut civil rights and economic rights. And now you understand when they change the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. Now you are about to see with your own eyes every single Generation Alpha, Generation Z, Millennial, Generation X, what it looks like to live close to Jim Crow. No, I know some of y'all are saying, Roland, this ain't Jim Crow because I can go to the club with a white woman. This ain't Jim Crow because I can go out and we can go here and I can use this water fountain. I can use this bathroom and I can go here. But you need to understand, and I'm telling you right now, mark it down, 7:40 p.m. Eastern on January 23rd. A year from now, you are going to see a dramatic drop in the number of contracts that black businesses have gotten from the federal government. You are going to see a year from now a dramatic drop in the contracts that black-owned businesses will receive from corporate America and from state governments and from county governments and city governments and school districts. You are about to see an economic calamity come down in black America because too many of us sat our asses on the couch, chose not to vote because we said, well, if I don't get nothing before I vote, then I'm not going to vote. Now you are witnessing with your very eyes what happens. And then what you have are some of these same people who I saw your tweets. Well, I'm saying that we got to do for self. We got to do for self. Let me explain to you, everybody who keeps talking about doing for self, please explain to me how you are going to do for self in an industry that requires contracts. Please tell me how you're going to do that. If you do not have black companies that control every aspect of the supply chain, then you cannot do for self. And so you cannot show me how in America that if black folks then begin to shut out of contracts from federal government, state government, county government, city government, school districts, how are you going to do that? Right now, you have an assault on federal workers because of MAGA. Black people over-index in federal worker jobs. We are a higher percentage of workers in the federal government than we are in the population of the United States. There are more black people who have high five-figure and six-figure jobs in government than we do in corporate America. So when you begin to see those attacks on the federal level, you're then going to begin to see black people not be able to get the jobs in corporate America, which now means you can't buy a house. You means you cannot save money. You cannot invest money. You cannot afford to send your kids to college. And then when they cut Pell Grants, you can't send your kids to college to HBCUs because you don't have the $75 and $80 and $100,000 a year job, because now what are you going to be able to do? And so I need people to understand, Larry, this is what happens when you choose not to exercise that one basic power of voting. Then what you begin to do is lead to an economic catastrophe in the black community, and all of the work that people put in to create even what we got, which was not perfect, we are about to see, and I'm telling y'all it's happening, we are about to see not an erosion of what we built up. You are about to see an economic catastrophe that will take another century to rebuild.
Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. You heard what we just talked about there. Folks, I can't reiterate this enough. Listen to me clearly. I cannot reiterate this enough. When you've got technology companies running scared, when you've got legacy media not doing their job, when you've got black-owned media that is disintegrated, now is more than ever for us to have independent media that cares about the truth, that is willing to say what needs to be said. So when you support Roland Martin Unfiltered, this show, when you support the Black Star Network, you're not just supporting me, you're supporting the other shows. Our goal is to add 2 more shows this year. We want additional shows. We want more weekly and daily shows because we want to be able to speak truth to power. We want to be able to say what is necessary where other people are scared. And when you are scared, when you're looking over your shoulder, oh my God, that advertising contract is not going to come in. Well, guess what? A lot of these major ad agencies, they're not even supporting us anyway. You know, in 6 years of doing this show, Group M hasn't done a damn thing with us. Publicis hasn't done anything with us. You've got Horizon, you've got all of these folks, they haven't done jack. And so we are calling it like we see it, and we're speaking truth. And unlike some of these other so-called progressives and people who believe in truth, I'm not running around trying to kiss MAGA ass and kiss Trump's ass. I won't be going to Mar-a-Lago, not for a damn thing. And so this is about us being able to speak truth. So when you support this show and this network with your resources, that is exactly what is happening, because we are trying to build something that is bigger and broader, and actually it has the courage to say what needs to be said, even when it makes other folk uncomfortable. If you want to contribute giving Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. This is it right here. And if you are listening, simply go to blackstarnetwork.com to check it out. Also, if you want to see your check and money order, some of y'all old school, we understand that. See your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 2003 7-0196. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And again, folks, we've got some 4 million social media followers. If only 20,000 of our fans contribute at least $50 each, which comes out to $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day, that's $1 million that allows us to be able to continue to build, to add these shows and do the work that's required. So your support is needed. So please join our Bring the Funk fan club today. If you've not already joined, if you have given to us in the past, please renew your commitment, because it's important that we support Black-owned media, because Black-owned media matters.